The council chamber of the Galactic Federation stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its vaulted ceiling lost in artificial shadows that mimicked the depths of space. Each carried themselves with military precision, but their eyes held something the aliens had never seen in human representatives before: acceptance of defeat. Honored members of the Galactic Federation, Chin began, her voice carried by advanced acoustics to every corner of the chamber. We come before you today not as equals, but as a species that has finally understood its place in the cosmic order. A ripple of surprise moved through the assembled aliens. The translation systems worked furiously to convey not just the words, but the emotional undertones that seemed so unusual for humans. In 3 centuries of contact with the Federation, humans had been known for their stubborn independence, their refusal to truly submit to galactic authority. They had been tolerated as a minor species, useful for their adaptability and their willingness to take on dangerous tasks others avoided. The hedge march of the Vorthak Collective, a being that resembled a living cathedral of purple crystal, resonated with harmonics that translated as curiosity. Explain this change in your species' position, Human Admiral Chin. Chin's shoulders straightened. We have come to understand that humanity's attempts to maintain independence have been not just futile, but harmful to galactic stability. Our wars, our expansion, our very nature as a species has brought nothing but discord to the peaceful order you have maintained for millennia. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background hum of life support systems seemed to quiet, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, activating a holographic display that filled the space above them with images of Earth's history. We have compiled a comprehensive analysis of human impact on galactic civilization. The data is damning. The hologram showed battle after battle, conflict after conflict. Human colonies fighting for independence. Human merchants disrupting established trade routes. Human scientists making breakthroughs that challenged existing power structures. Human diplomats refusing to accept unfavorable treaties. Human explorers pushing into regions marked as off-limits by elder species. In the past 50 years alone, Vasquez continued, human actions have directly or indirectly contributed to 17 major conflicts, 43 trade disruptions, and countless violations of galactic law. Our species' addiction to violence and chaos has become a cancer on the peaceful body of Federation space. Ambassador Wright took his turn. We have studied the great civilizations that came before us. The ethereal empire that achieved perfect harmony across 10,000 worlds. The collective consciousness that eliminated war by eliminating individual conflict. The benevolent hierarchy that brought order through absolute structure. Each of these great achievements was built on principles that humanity has consistently violated. The holographic display shifted, showing the rise and fall of galactic civilizations across millions of years. Each great empire had brought stability in its own way, creating vast peaceful zones where billions of beings lived in harmony. The pattern was always the same: chaos and conflict would be eliminated through superior organization, advanced technology, or transcendent philosophy. Peace would reign for thousands of years until some new disruption would arise. We have identified the common factor in every collapse, Wright continued. Species that refuse to accept their proper place in the cosmic order. Species that value individual freedom over collective stability. Species that choose conflict over harmony. Species like us. Captain Park activated another section of the display, showing detailed analysis of human psychology. Our neurological scans confirm what we have long suspected. Humans are biologically programmed for competition, aggression, and individual achievement. These traits made us successful in our evolutionary environment, but they make us fundamentally incompatible with advanced galactic civilization. The data was overwhelming. Brain scans showing hyperactive regions associated with competition and violence. Genetic analysis revealing markers for aggression found in 96% of the human population. Psychological profiles demonstrating humanity's inability to achieve the kind of collective consciousness or peaceful submission that marked truly advanced species. General Torres spoke for the first time, his voice heavy with regret. We have tried to change. For 3 centuries, we have attempted to modify our nature to become worthy of membership in galactic civilization. We have established peace programs, meditation centers, genetic modification initiatives. All have failed. Humans who undergo the modifications cease to be recognizably human. Those who retain their humanity retain their destructive tendencies. The assembled aliens listened with growing understanding. Several species had faced similar realizations in their past, the moment when they recognized that their primitive nature was incompatible with higher civilization. Most had chosen transformation, allowing their base nature to be modified or replaced with something more suitable for galactic citizenship. A few had chosen isolation, withdrawing from galactic affairs to avoid causing harm. Therefore, Admiral Chen announced, humanity formally surrenders its independence and requests placement under direct Federation oversight. We ask that our species be classified as a protected primitive culture, with all human worlds placed under direct administration by Federation authorities. The request sent shockwaves through the chamber. Protected primitive culture status was reserved for species that had not yet achieved spaceflight, or for the rare cases where a species had proven incapable of self-governance. It meant complete loss of autonomy, with every aspect of human society subject to alien oversight. The eternal speaker of the transcendent collective, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix, pulsed with what translated as deep consideration. This is unprecedented. No spacefaring species has ever voluntarily requested such status. Because no spacefaring species has ever been as fundamentally flawed as humanity, Chen replied. We recognize that our nature makes us incapable of true civilization. Rather than continue to spread chaos throughout the galaxy, we choose to accept our limitations. The holographic display shifted one final time, showing humanity's proposed future. Human worlds would be administered by Federation governors. Human technology would be regulated to prevent military applications. Human population would be managed to prevent the kind of explosive growth that had characterized their expansion. Human culture would be gradually modified to remove elements that promoted competition and individual achievement. We estimate that within 5 generations, with proper guidance, humanity can be transformed into a stable, peaceful species suitable for limited participation in galactic affairs, Dr. Vasquez explained. Until then, we place ourselves entirely under Federation authority. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives conferred with their respective governments. The humans stood quietly, waiting for judgment. Their posture spoke of complete submission, no longer the proud, defiant stance that had characterized human delegations for centuries. The hedge march's crystalline form rang with complex harmonics. The Vorthack Collective finds this proposal logical. Humanity has indeed been a source of instability. Direct oversight would benefit all parties. The Machine Concordat's primary unit, a sleek assemblage of metallic components, spoke in precise electronic tones. Analysis confirms human incompatibility with advanced civilization protocols. Protective status would optimize galactic efficiency. One by one, the major powers of the Federation expressed their agreement. A few minor species raised concerns about the precedent being set, but they were quickly overruled. The human request was not just reasonable, it was overdue. As the formal vote approached, Admiral Chen made one final statement. We ask only that this transition be handled with the same wisdom and compassion that the Federation has shown to other primitive species. We know that some humans will resist this change, clinging to their destructive individualism. We trust that Federation methods for dealing with such resistance will be both effective and humane. The vote was unanimous. Human independence was formally terminated. Within days, Federation fleets would begin moving toward human space to begin the transition to protected status. The chaos that humanity had spread across the galaxy would finally be contained. As the human delegation was escorted from the chamber, many of the alien representatives felt a sense of relief. Finally, the last major source of instability in their region of the galaxy had been neutralized. The long peace that the Federation had worked to maintain could continue uninterrupted. None of them noticed the brief smile that crossed Admiral Chen's face as the chamber doors closed behind them. None of them had bothered to deeply analyze the human psychological data that had been presented. None of them understood that a species capable of 3 centuries of stubborn resistance to galactic authority might not change its nature simply because it had asked to be conquered. The greatest deception in galactic history had just been accomplished through the simple expedient of telling the truth. Humanity was indeed a species addicted to conflict and individual achievement. What the Federation failed to understand was that sometimes the greatest conflicts were won by appearing to surrender. In the depths of space, human ships began receiving coded transmissions. The plan was in motion. The real war was about to begin. Hashtag the surrender of humanity that ignited a galactic uprising. Second document, the Federation fleet magnificent purpose dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system with the pageantry befitting a historic moment. 200 ships representing 37 different species formed a perfect formation as they approached humanity's birth world. At the fleet's center, the massive command vessel Eternal Harmony stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its crystalline hull reflecting the light of Sol in spectacular patterns. Admiral Zephyran of the Ethereal Collective stood on the bridge, his semi-transparent form flickering with satisfaction. This was how civilized beings handled the integration of primitive species, with overwhelming force deployed peacefully, demonstrating the futility of resistance while offering the promise of enlightenment. All ships report ready status, announced his aide, a Vorthac crystal being whose harmonics conveyed military efficiency. Human vessels are maintaining their positions as requested. No hostile actions detected. Through the bridge's vast viewing ports, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the darkness. Around it, human space stations and orbital platforms continued their normal operations, showing no signs of military preparation. Long-range sensors detected human warships in their regular patrol patterns, but none were moving to intercept or challenge the Federation fleet. Remarkable, mused the transcendent observer, a being of pure energy who served as the fleet's political advisor. Truly remarkable. We have never before witnessed such complete acceptance of defeat. Admiral Zephyran allowed himself a moment of philosophical reflection. In his 3,000 years of existence, he had overseen the integration of dozens of primitive species. Usually, there was some resistance, desperate last stands, futile attacks, pathetic attempts at negotiation. But humanity had simply accepted their fate. Perhaps they truly were more intelligent than their chaotic history suggested. The communications array crackled to life with an incoming transmission from Earth. The holographic display resolved into the image of Admiral Chun, still wearing her crisp military uniform, standing in what appeared to be the command center of Earth's space defense network. Admiral Zephyran, welcome to Sol System, she said with what seemed like genuine warmth. We are prepared to begin the transition process immediately. As promised, human military forces have been ordered to offer no resistance whatsoever. A wise decision, Zephyran replied, his translated words carrying harmonics of approval. The Federation fleet will proceed to Earth orbit for the formal ceremony of integration. Your cooperation in this matter will be noted favorably in all historical records. We understand the significance of this moment, Chen responded. Humanity's long journey toward true civilization begins today. Our children will thank us for having the wisdom to accept guidance from our betters. As the massive Federation fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, they passed through humanity's outer defenses. Automated weapons platforms remained silent. Patrol ships maintained course without deviation. Space stations continued their routine operations. It was a textbook example of peaceful integration. What the Federation observers couldn't detect, however, were the subtle signs of preparation hidden beneath this facade of normalcy. Human cargo ships making routine supply runs carried more than food and medical supplies. Civilian transports followed flight patterns that had been carefully calculated months in advance. Even the orbital mechanics of space debris had been subtly influenced by discrete thruster adjustments. On Earth's largest space station, Luna Station, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in a laboratory that officially didn't exist. Around her, teams of human scientists made final adjustments to devices that Federation sensors would identify as routine scientific equipment. The technology was centuries old by galactic standards, crude and primitive. But sometimes, crude and primitive was exactly what was needed. Final countdown initiated. announced Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's leading expert in quantum resonance fields. All stations report ready. We have 17 minutes until the Federation fleet reaches optimal position. Vasquez nodded, watching displays that showed the positions of Federation ships with incredible precision. The aliens had fallen into the trap perfectly, their formation optimized for psychological impact rather than tactical efficiency. Their massive ships were beautiful, impressive, and completely vulnerable to the type of attack they never anticipated from a supposedly surrendered enemy. "Remember," she said to her team, "timing is everything. Too early, and they'll have time to adapt. Too late, and we lose the element of surprise. We get one chance at this." On the bridge of the Eternal Harmony, Admiral Zefran received reports from ships throughout his fleet. All systems normal. No anomalous readings from human space. The surrender appeared to be genuine in every respect. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving detailed navigation data from human traffic control. They're providing us with optimal orbital positions for the ceremony. Very accommodating." Zefran allowed himself a feeling of satisfaction. This was how advanced civilizations operated, with efficiency, cooperation, and mutual respect for proper authority. Perhaps humanity's reputation for chaos had been exaggerated. Perhaps their apparent transformation was more complete than anyone had dared hope. The Federation fleet moved into Earth orbit following the navigation paths provided by human traffic control. The massive ships took their assigned positions in a perfect ceremonial formation above humanity's birth world. It would make for spectacular imagery as the formal surrender documents were signed. Below on Earth, in a bunker buried 3 kilometers beneath the Sahara Desert, General Marcus Torres watched displays showing every Federation ship in perfect detail. Next to him, Captain Lisa Park monitored communications networks that spanned human space. Every piece was in position. "All units report ready," Park announced. "Operation Trojan Horse is go." Torres activated a communications system that would broadcast simultaneously to every human world, every human ship, every human settlement throughout known space. His voice carried across light years in a matter of seconds, reaching millions of human ears. "Citizens of humanity," he began, "for 300 years, we have been told that we are too violent, too chaotic, too primitive for true civilization. Today, we prove that sometimes primitive is exactly what the galaxy needs." In Earth orbit, Admiral Zefran was reviewing the ceremony protocols when his tactical officer's harmonics shifted to alarm frequencies. "Sir, we're detecting massive quantum resonance buildups throughout the system. The energy signatures are primitive but extremely powerful." Zefran's translucent form flickered with confusion. "Explain." "The humans appear to be activating some kind of gravitational manipulation network. But that's impossible. Their technology level doesn't support such capabilities." On Luna Station, Dr. Kim smiled as her instruments showed perfect resonance lock across 17 different points in space. "Cascade effect initiated. Gravitational amplifiers are online. We have lock on all primary targets." The technology was indeed primitive by galactic standards. Instead of the elegant gravitational manipulators used by advanced species, humanity had built a network of crude but powerful gravity generators that used Earth's own gravitational field as an amplifier. The system required massive amounts of energy and could only be used once before destroying itself, but for one perfect moment, it would give humanity the power to bend space-time itself. "All Federation ships are in optimal position," Kim announced. "Executing now." Throughout Sol System, hidden installations that had masqueraded as mining operations, research stations, and commercial facilities revealed their true purpose. Massive gravitational field generators came online simultaneously, their crude but devastating power focused on precise points in space where Federation ships hung in their ceremonial formation. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The elegant hulls of Federation vessels, designed for efficiency and beauty rather than combat, found themselves caught in gravitational anomalies that twisted space-time in impossible directions. Structural supports failed. Hull plating buckled. Life support systems collapsed as the very geometry of the ship's interiors became non-Euclidean. Admiral Zefran watched in horror as his magnificent fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons that shouldn't have existed. All ships, emergency jump, escape vector. But the gravitational fields made faster-than-light travel impossible. The Federation ships were trapped in normal space, their elegant technology useless against humanity's brute force approach to space-time manipulation. Admiral Chun to Federation fleet. Came a transmission from Earth. The human's voice was no longer submissive. We tried to warn you. We told you that humanity was addicted to violence and conflict. Did you think that addiction would simply disappear because we asked nicely? On his dying flagship, Admiral Zephyrin finally understood. The surrender had been a deception from the beginning. The psychological profiles, the cultural analysis, the apparent acceptance of defeat, all of it had been designed to lure the Federation fleet into a position where humanity's primitive but devastating weapons could be most effective. You have doomed yourselves, he transmitted back. The Federation will send more fleets. Larger fleets. You cannot stand against the combined might of 47 species. Admiral Chin's response carried across space with terrible clarity. Admiral, you still don't understand what humanity really is. We're not just addicted to violence and conflict. We're addicted to impossible victories against overwhelming odds. And we're very, very good at it. Throughout human space, the real operation was already beginning. While the Federation had focused on Sol System, human ships had been moving into position across dozens of star systems. The apparent surrender had provided the perfect cover for the largest military mobilization in human history. Captain Park's voice came across the command frequency, reaching human forces throughout the galaxy. Phase 1 complete. All Federation response fleets are now engaged. Begin Phase 2. Operation David Sling is now active. The war that would reshape the galaxy had begun not with humanity's defiance, but with their apparent submission. The species that had supposedly accepted its place as a primitive culture was about to teach the galaxy what primitives could accomplish when they stopped playing by civilized rules. As the last Federation ship in Sol System died in a cascade of twisted space-time, Admiral Chen looked out at the stars and smiled. The real fight was just beginning. And for the first time in 3 centuries, humanity was exactly where it wanted to be, outnumbered, outgunned, and completely underestimated. The galaxy was about to learn why even the word surrender could be a weapon in the right hands. Hashtag the surrender of humanity that ignited a galactic uprising. Third document, the emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council convened in chaos. Representatives materialized through quantum transmissions from across the galaxy, their forms flickering with urgency and disbelief. The great chamber that had witnessed humanity's surrender just days earlier now echoed with cacophony as 47 species attempted to process the impossible. The hedge march of the Vorthack collective resonated with frequencies that translated as barely contained rage. 17 fleets. 17 separate Federation response fleets, ambushed and destroyed simultaneously across 12 star systems. Admiral Zethkarin of the Aquatic Collective's warship pools rippled with patterns of tactical analysis. The coordination required for such an operation. How did we miss it? Our intelligence networks showed no signs of human military buildup. The answer came from the Machine Concordat's primary analytical unit, its electronic voice cutting through the din with cold precision. Analysis complete. Human forces did not build up. They redistributed. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was already in position for normal operations. The humans weaponized their own surrender protocol. On the great display at the chamber's center, tactical holograms showed the devastating scope of human operations. While the Federation had focused on the spectacular destruction in Sol System, humanity had struck simultaneously across their entire sphere of influence. Mining ships had revealed hidden weapon systems. Cargo vessels had deployed previously unknown military technologies. Even civilian transports had participated in coordinated attacks that crippled Federation infrastructure. The eternal speaker of the transcendent collective pulsed with disbelief. They turned their entire civilization into a weapon while convincing us they were surrendering. The level of deception required is unprecedented in galactic history, finished the ethereal empire's first mind. We have recorded instances of military deception, but never the conversion of an entire species' psychology as a weapon of war. What truly disturbed the assembled representatives was the nature of human tactics. Federation warfare had evolved over millions of years into elegant, efficient conflicts between advanced civilizations. Wars were fought with sophisticated technologies, following established protocols that minimized collateral damage and respected the fundamental structures of galactic civilization. Humanity fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The tactical displays showed human forces using improvised weapons built from mining equipment. They converted civilian infrastructure into military assets in real time. They employed gravitational manipulation techniques that were crude by galactic standards, but devastatingly effective against ships designed for peacetime operations. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to actively embrace the chaos of warfare in ways that violated every principle of advanced military science. Report from the Kepler sector, announced a minor Federation official. Human forces have seized control of 6 trade stations using converted maintenance robots. They're demanding the release of all human prisoners and the withdrawal of Federation forces from human space. Proxima Base reports complete communications blackout, added another voice. Last transmission indicated human forces had somehow converted the station's own defensive systems against Federation personnel. The reports continued streaming in, each more impossible than the last. Human forces were fighting with equipment that shouldn't work, using tactics that violated established military doctrine, and achieving victories that their technological level made impossible. Fleet Admiral Morthak of the Vorthak Collective's War Crystal resonated with frustrated confusion. How are they winning? Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their ships are inferior. Their weapons are primitive. The answer came from an unexpected source. In the chamber's guest section, a small figure rose to speak. Veltar, representing one of the galaxy's most ancient species, the Observers, had remained silent through 3 million years of galactic history. When they spoke, civilizations listened. Young Admiral, Veltar's voice carried the weight of eons. You speak of superior technology as if it guarantees victory. Let me share something we learned long ago, in the early days of galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent. The Observers were rumored to have witnessed the rise and fall of 100 galactic empires. There was once a great civilization called the Dominion of Perfect Logic. They had technology that could reshape matter at the quantum level. Their ships were powered by controlled black holes. Their warriors were enhanced to superhuman levels. They believed their superiority made them invincible. Veltar paused, allowing the historical context to settle. They were destroyed by a species that fought with chemical explosives and kinetic projectiles. Do you know why? The silence stretched uncomfortably long before the Observer continued. Because the Dominion had forgotten that warfare is not about technology. It is about will. It is about the willingness to sacrifice everything to achieve victory. It is about the ability to think in ways your enemy cannot predict or counter. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Every species in the Federation had achieved their advanced status by transcending their primitive, violent natures. They had built their civilizations by learning to resolve conflicts through negotiation, superior technology, and logical analysis. Humanity had never transcended anything. They had simply learned to hide what they were. The humans, Veltar continued, have spent 3 centuries studying us, learning our weaknesses, understanding how our advanced nature constrains our thinking. They knew that we would never expect a surrendering species to launch the largest coordinated attack in galactic history. The tactical displays updated with new information streaming in from across Federation space. The scope of human operations was becoming clear, and it was staggering. New transmission from the Outer Rim, reported a communications officer. Human forces have somehow convinced 3 minor species to join their rebellion. The Corthan Unions and the Zalani Confederacy are actively supporting human operations. This news sent another shockwave through the chamber. The idea of multiple species collaborating against Federation authority was almost unthinkable. The Federation's power structure was based on the natural hierarchy of advanced civilizations. More primitive species naturally deferred to their betters. But now the reports painted a different picture. Species that had chafed under Federation oversight were rallying to humanity's banner. The humans weren't just fighting a war, they were starting a revolution. Dr. Kethmiran of the Scientific Collective activated his analysis systems. How are they coordinating resistance movements across multiple species? Our intelligence networks show no communications between human forces and these rebel groups. The answer came from an intercepted human transmission that Federation cryptographers had finally managed to decode. The message was simple, broadcast in dozens of languages across rebel-controlled space. To all species who remember what freedom felt like, humanity offers an alliance of equals. No masters, no servants, no predetermined hierarchy, just sapient beings choosing their own destiny among the stars. The message was accompanied by tactical data, weapon specifications, and coordination protocols. But, more than that, it carried something the Federation had never offered: respect for the independence and dignity of less advanced species. They're not trying to conquer anyone, realized Admiral Morthak. They're trying to liberate everyone. The irony was staggering. Humanity, supposedly the most primitive and chaotic species in Federation space, was offering other species something the advanced civilizations never had: genuine partnership rather than benevolent domination. Fleet Admiral Zethkarin's aquatic form shifted through rapid color changes indicating deep analysis. The psychological warfare implications are extraordinary. They're turning our own superiority against us. Every species we classify as primitive is a potential ally for humanity. The scope of the threat was becoming clear. This wasn't just a human rebellion. It was a challenge to the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. If primitive species could successfully resist advanced ones, if cooperation could triumph over hierarchy, then everything the Federation represented was in question. Emergency military mobilization is authorized, announced the Hedge March. All member species will contribute forces for a comprehensive response. This rebellion ends now. But even as the Federation prepared for total war, reports continued streaming in of human victories across the galaxy. Mining colonies declaring independence, trade routes being disrupted by improvised human weapons, Federation administrators being forced to evacuate entire systems. Most disturbing of all, human forces seemed to be growing stronger with each engagement. They were capturing Federation equipment and reverse engineering it at impossible speeds. They were learning from every encounter and adapting their tactics in real time. Latest intelligence report announced a tactical officer. Human forces in the Vega system have somehow modified captured Federation shields to work with their primitive power systems. They're creating hybrid technologies that our analysts say shouldn't be possible. The truth was dawning on the assembled representatives. Humanity's apparent technological inferiority had been another deception. Their technology wasn't primitive, it was adaptive. While Federation civilizations had perfected elegant, efficient technologies, humanity had maintained the ability to innovate, improvise, and integrate new capabilities at a moment's notice. They're not fighting like a primitive species, realized the Eternal Speaker. They're fighting like a species that has never forgotten how to evolve. As the emergency session continued, one fact became increasingly clear. The galaxy's long peace had been maintained by the assumption that advanced civilizations would always triumph over primitive ones. Humanity was systematically destroying that assumption, battle by battle, system by system. The war that began with humanity's surrender was becoming something much larger, a galaxy-wide revolution that would determine whether the future belonged to hierarchical order or chaotic freedom. And, for the first time in a million years, the outcome was genuinely uncertain. #The surrender of humanity that ignited a galactic uprising. Fourth document: 6 months after humanity's false surrender, the galaxy burned with revolution. What had begun as a single-species deception had evolved into a war that challenged every fundamental assumption about power, hierarchy, and civilization itself. In the neutral zone between Federation and rebel-controlled space, Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned human dreadnought Unconquerable. The ship was a perfect example of humanity's hybrid approach to warfare: Federation technology stripped down and rebuilt according to human engineering principles. Where Federation ships prioritized elegance and efficiency, the Unconquerable was designed for adaptability and survivability. Admiral, reported Captain Park, now serving as Chin's tactical coordinator, We're receiving confirmation from 17 different star systems. The simultaneous uprising has begun. Around them, the bridge crew worked with focused intensity. Half were human, but the other half represented dozens of species that had joined what media across the galaxy now called the Liberation Alliance. Solani tactical specialists worked alongside human engineers. Korthan warriors coordinated with human strategists. Species that had never cooperated before found common purpose in their desire for freedom from Federation oversight. The key to humanity's success hadn't been superior technology or overwhelming force. It had been their willingness to treat other species as true equals. Where the Federation offered benevolent guidance to primitive civilizations, humans offered genuine partnership and mutual respect. Status report from Alpha Centauri, announced Lieutenant Commander Singh, the ship's intelligence officer. The Korthan Third Fleet has successfully disabled the Federation monitoring station. They're requesting human technical support for converting Federation technology to their specifications. Chin smiled. This was the pattern that had repeated across Rebel space. Human forces would eliminate Federation military assets, then work with local species to help them achieve true independence. Rather than replacing Federation control with human dominance, the rebellion was creating a network of autonomous but cooperating civilizations. Grant the request, Chun ordered, and remind them that all captured Federation personnel are to be treated according to Alliance protocols. We're liberators, not conquerors. This was another aspect of human strategy that confounded Federation analysts. Instead of executing captured enemies or holding them as prisoners, the Alliance treated Federation personnel with respect and offered them a choice: return to Federation space or join the rebellion. Surprisingly, nearly 30% chose to stay. The communications array crackled with an incoming priority transmission. The holographic display resolved into the image of Dr. Elena Vasquez, now coordinating Alliance scientific operations from a hidden base in the Outer Rim. Sarah, we've got a problem, Vasquez began without preamble. Our intelligence networks are reporting massive Federation fleet movements. They're pulling ships from across the galaxy for something big. Chin's expression hardened. For months, the Federation had been fighting a reactive war, responding to Alliance operations rather than taking the initiative. If they were finally mobilizing for a major offensive, it would represent a fundamental shift in strategy. Details? Chin asked. Nearly 2,000 ships converging on the galactic core. Intelligence suggests they're planning to strike at Earth directly. Not to capture it, to destroy it completely. The revelation sent shockwaves through the bridge crew. Destroying inhabited planets was forbidden under every code of civilized warfare. The Federation had never resorted to such tactics in its million-year history. They're calling it Operation Final Peace, Vasquez continued. Complete sterilization of human space, followed by similar treatment for any species that refuses to surrender unconditionally. The implications were staggering. The Federation had decided that the liberation movement posed such a fundamental threat to galactic order that genocide was preferable to allowing it to continue. Estimated time until they reach Sol system? Chin asked. 3 weeks. Maybe less if they're willing to push their drives past safety limits. Chin's mind raced through tactical calculations. The Alliance fleet was powerful and growing, but it couldn't stand against 2,000 Federation ships in direct combat. The guerrilla tactics that had served them so well couldn't protect Earth from systematic destruction. There's more, Vasquez added grimly. Our deep cover agents in Federation space report that several member species are having second thoughts about the genocide option, but they're being overruled by the core powers. The Vorthack, the Ethereals, and the Transcendents have convinced themselves that the survival of galactic civilization requires the complete elimination of human influence. Chin stared out at the stars, processing the information. For 6 months, they had been winning a war through deception, adaptability, and alliance building. Now they faced an enemy willing to commit genocide to preserve their vision of order. Contact all Alliance commanders, she ordered. Emergency council session. We need to accelerate our timeline. The Alliance strategy had always been long-term. Gradually build support among oppressed species, demonstrate the viability of free cooperation over hierarchical control, and eventually forced the Federation to accept a new galactic order based on genuine equality between civilizations. But genocide changed everything. If Earth fell, the liberation movement would lose its symbolic center and its most innovative military force. More importantly, it would prove to every other species that rebellion against the Federation was ultimately futile. "Ma'am," interrupted Ensign Torres at the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Federation fleet at Proxima. It's addressed to you personally." The holographic display shifted, revealing the translucent form of Admiral Zephyran of the Ethereal Collective. The being who had overseen humanity's supposed surrender now commanded the Federation's military response to the rebellion. "Admiral Chun," Zephyran began, his translated voice carrying undertones of regret and determination. "I am authorized to offer humanity a final opportunity for true surrender. Cease all military operations, order your allies to lay down arms, and submit to Federation justice. In exchange, human civilians will be relocated to a protected reservation world where they can live out their lives in peace." The offer was actually generous by the standards of species that had been marked for extinction. But Chen understood the subtext: total capitulation or total destruction. "And if we refuse?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then, Operation Final Peace proceeds as planned. Every human world will be sterilized. Every human ship will be destroyed. Every species that is allied with humanity will face similar consequences. The galaxy will mourn your passing, but order will be restored. Fortunately, humans stopped fighting conventional wars about 3 centuries ago." She activated a communications array that connected her to every Alliance commander in the galaxy. Her voice reached rebel forces across dozens of star systems, carried by quantum transmissions that the Federation couldn't intercept or jam. "Alliance forces, this is Admiral Chun. The Federation has chosen genocide over negotiation. Operation Prometheus is now active. Execute immediately." Throughout rebel space, human teams that had been quietly infiltrating Federation infrastructure for months suddenly revealed themselves. But they weren't attacking military targets. Instead, they struck at something much more vulnerable: the Federation's information networks. On Vorthak Prime, human technicians who had posed as maintenance workers activated viruses in the crystalline data cores that stored government records. On ethereal worlds, quantum disruption devices destroyed the transcendent communication matrices that connected their collective consciousness. Throughout Federation space, the elegant information systems that maintained galactic civilization began collapsing simultaneously. But the real target wasn't just data destruction. Hidden in the chaos of system failures were carefully crafted messages broadcasting the truth about Operation Final Peace to every Federation citizen. Within hours, beings across the galaxy learned that their governments had chosen genocide over compromise. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On world after world, Federation citizens who had been told they were fighting to preserve peace and order discovered they were supporting systematic extermination. Protests erupted. Government officials faced angry mobs. Some worlds declared neutrality. Others joined the Alliance outright. Status report: Chen requested from her intelligence staff. "Approximately 40% of Federation infrastructure networks have been compromised," reported Lieutenant Commander Singh. "The information warfare campaign is exceeding projections. We're seeing civilian unrest on at least 60 Federation worlds." Admiral Zephyran's holographic image flickered with what could only be described as shock. "Impossible. Our security systems are impenetrable. How did you infiltrate our core networks?" Chen's smile widened. "The same way we convinced you to accept our surrender, Admiral. We told you the truth. For months, we've been placing our people in your infrastructure as refugees seeking Federation protection from human chaos. You were so convinced of your own superiority that you never imagined primitive humans could outsmart your screening processes." The scope of the deception was staggering. While the Federation had focused on military threats, humanity had been waging a completely different kind of war, one aimed at the very foundation of Federation society. "You cannot destroy our civilization," Zephyran transmitted desperately. "Without Federation oversight, the galaxy will collapse into chaos." "Maybe," Chen agreed. "But that chaos will be chosen by free beings making their own decisions. That's what you never understood about us, Admiral. We'd rather live free in chaos than safe in chains. The communication ended, leaving Chun and her crew to watch displays showing the Federation's 2,000-ship armada continuing towards Sol System. The information warfare had been successful beyond their wildest hopes, but it hadn't stopped the immediate threat. Admiral, Captain Park said quietly, even with the political chaos, that fleet is still coming. We need to be ready for the final battle. Chen nodded, looking out at the stars that had once seemed so peaceful under Federation rule. In 3 weeks, the largest fleet in galactic history would arrive at Earth. The outcome would determine whether the future belonged to imposed order or chosen freedom. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. And, for the first time since the war started, Chen wasn't entirely certain they could win. # the surrender of humanity that ignited a galactic uprising. Fifth document, the Battle of Sol began not with the thunder of weapons, but with the silence of empty space. As the massive Federation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of humanity's birth system, they found something they had never expected: nothing. Admiral Zefran stood on the bridge of his flagship Perfect Order, staring at tactical displays that showed impossible readings. The Sol system appeared to be completely evacuated. No human ships, no defensive platforms, no signs of life anywhere. Sensor sweep complete, reported his tactical officer. We are detecting minimal energy signatures from Earth and the outer colonies. It appears the human population has been evacuated. Zefran's translucent form flickered with confusion. Intelligence reports had indicated massive human defensive preparations. Spy networks had detected ships and weapons being moved into Sol system for weeks. Where was the desperate last stand they had expected? Long-range communications are detecting automated distress beacons throughout the system, added another officer. Standard evacuation protocols. The humans appear to have abandoned their birth world. The Federation fleet moved deeper into the system in perfect formation, 2,000 ships representing the combined might of 47 civilizations. They had come prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history. Instead, they found what appeared to be complete surrender. Admiral, came a transmission from Admiral Chun, her image appearing on the main display. She was broadcasting from what appeared to be the empty command center of Earth's primary space station. Welcome to Sol System. As you can see, we've decided to save you some time. Zefran felt a chill of suspicion. After months of human deception, this apparent capitulation seemed far too convenient. Explain yourself, he demanded. Chen's expression was eerily calm. Simple, Admiral. You came here to destroy human civilization. We've decided to do it ourselves. Earth and all human colonies are rigged with quantum charges. When your fleet reaches optimal position, we'll detonate them simultaneously. No more humans, no more rebellion, no more chaos. The Federation gets exactly what it wants. The tactical implications were staggering. If Chun was telling the truth, humanity was choosing extinction over submission. It would be the ultimate act of defiance, denying the Federation even the satisfaction of victory. You're bluffing, Zefran responded. No species would choose complete extinction. Wouldn't we? Chun replied. You've spent 3 centuries telling us we're too violent and irrational for civilized society. Maybe you were right. Maybe we'd rather burn than bow. On cue, massive energy signatures began appearing throughout the Sol system. Earth itself was showing quantum instabilities that could only come from enormous explosive charges. The Moon, Mars, the asteroid belt installations, everything was reading as a potential bomb. Sir, his science officer reported, the energy signatures are consistent with quantum implosion charges. If detonated simultaneously, they would indeed sterilize the entire system. Zefran found himself in an impossible position. The Federation fleet had come to destroy humanity, but humanity's willing self-destruction would deprive them of any real victory. Worse, it would create a martyr complex that could inspire rebellions throughout the galaxy. There must be another option, he transmitted to Chun. Some form of compromise. Chen's laugh was bitter. Compromise? Admiral, 6 months ago we offered you genuine cooperation. We tried to work within your system. You responded by planning genocide. Now you want compromise. The truth of that accusation stung. The Federation had indeed chosen extermination over negotiation. But Zephyran couldn't allow humanity to control the narrative of their own destruction. Stand down your charges, he ordered. We will accept your unconditional surrender and guarantee the survival of your species. Too late for that, Chen replied. You taught us that the Federation only understands absolute force. So we're giving you absolute force. The destruction of Earth in 60 seconds. Across his fleet, Federation commanders began reporting similar transmissions from human positions throughout the galaxy. Every human world was apparently rigged for self-destruction. Every human ship was prepared for suicide runs. The rebellion was choosing mass suicide over defeat. 30 seconds, Chen announced calmly. Zephyran made a desperate calculation. He could order his fleet to retreat, avoiding the moral catastrophe of witnessing humanity's self-destruction. But that would hand the rebels a propaganda victory that could shatter Federation credibility forever. 10 seconds, Chen continued. All ships, emergency retreat. Zephyran ordered. Maximum distance from planetary bodies. The Federation fleet began pulling back, their elegant formations dissolving into chaotic escape patterns. No commander wanted to be caught in the gravitational chaos that would follow planetary destruction. 3, 2, 1. Nothing happened. The expected explosions didn't come. The quantum signatures remained stable. Earth continued its quiet orbit around Sol, showing no signs of imminent destruction. Slowly, Admiral Zephyran realized they had been deceived again. The charges were fake, he said in amazement. Chen's image smiled on the display. Not fake, Admiral. Just not where you thought they were. At that moment, every Federation ship in the Sol system detected massive energy buildups. Not from the planets, but from their own vessels. During the months of apparent evacuation, human infiltration teams had been busy. While the Federation had focused on preventing human defensive preparations, they had ignored the possibility of sabotage within their own fleet. All ships report internal explosions, came frantic transmissions from across the Federation fleet. Sabotage devices in the quantum cores. Engineering sections compromised. The elegant Federation vessels, designed for efficiency and beauty rather than internal security, began failing catastrophically. Human saboteurs who had posed as maintenance workers, technical advisors, and even diplomatic observers revealed their true purpose. Months of careful preparation had placed explosive devices at critical points throughout the Federation fleet. But these weren't random acts of destruction. The sabotage was precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. Federation ships found their weapons offline, their shields down, their engines dead. They were helpless, but alive. Attention Federation fleet, Chen announced. You are now prisoners of the Liberation Alliance. Prepare to be boarded. From seemingly empty space, the true human fleet began decloaking. Hundreds of ships that had been hiding behind sophisticated stealth technology revealed themselves. But these weren't just human vessels. The fleet included ships from dozens of Alliance species, all working together in perfect coordination. Zephyran watched in horrified fascination as his mighty armada was systematically captured by forces that had supposedly evacuated the system. It was the most complete tactical defeat in Federation history. How? He transmitted weakly to Chun. The same way we've been winning this war from the beginning, she replied. By remembering that the most powerful weapon is the enemy's assumptions about you. As boarding parties began securing Federation vessels, Chun continued her explanation. For 6 months, you've been fighting the war you expected us to fight. Traditional tactics, conventional strategies, predictable responses. But we've never been fighting that war. We've been fighting for something you don't understand. The right of every sapient species to choose their own destiny. The scope of the deception was staggering. While the Federation had prepared for a massive space battle, humanity had been orchestrating something entirely different. The apparent evacuation had been cover for the largest covert operation in galactic history. Your Federation is built on a lie, Chen continued. The idea that advanced civilizations have the right to rule primitive ones. That hierarchy is natural. That order is more important than freedom. Today, that lie dies. Across the Federation fleet, human boarding parties were already at work. But they weren't looting or destroying. Instead, they were offering the captured crews the same choice they had given everyone else: return to Federation space or join the Alliance. The response was unprecedented. Nearly half the Federation personnel chose to stay. After witnessing the complete failure of their supposedly superior leadership, many began questioning everything they had believed about Federation superiority. Admiral Zephyran, Chin said, her tone now respectful rather than mocking. You're a decent being who believed in the righteousness of your cause. I'm offering you the same choice we've offered everyone else. Return to Federation space with a message, or stay and help us build something better. Zephyran's translucent form flickered through a spectrum of emotions: defeat, humiliation, confusion, and, finally, a strange sort of hope. What message would you have me carry? That the war is over. Not because anyone won or lost, but because we're all choosing something different. The Federation can continue to exist, but as a voluntary association of equals rather than a hierarchy of rulers and subjects. The holographic display shifted, showing new tactical data streaming in from across the galaxy. The pattern was repeating everywhere. Federation fleets that had been dispatched to crush rebellions were being systematically captured or convinced to switch sides. The information warfare campaign had shattered Federation unity, while the military operations had proven the viability of cooperative defense. You're offering to dissolve the Federation? Zephyran asked. We're offering to transform it, Chin replied, into something based on partnership rather than dominance. Something that respects the autonomy of every species while allowing for voluntary cooperation. The implications were staggering. Instead of destroying galactic civilization, the human rebellion was proposing to remake it according to entirely different principles. Some species will never accept such changes, Zephyran warned. Then, they're free to maintain their own space according to their own principles, Chin replied. But they won't be free to impose those principles on others. The age of benevolent tyranny is over. As the last Federation ship surrendered, Admiral Zephyran found himself facing a choice that would define the rest of galactic history. He could return to what remained of Federation space and report the complete failure of military options. Or he could stay and help build the new order that was emerging from the ashes of the old. I will carry your message, he decided finally. But I will also remain here to observe this experiment in freedom. Perhaps there is wisdom in what you propose. Chin smiled, the first genuine warmth she had shown in months of warfare. Welcome to the Alliance, Admiral. Now let's see if we can build a galaxy where surrender means cooperation instead of defeat. In the months that followed, the transformation of galactic civilization proceeded with surprising smoothness. Species that had chafed under Federation oversight eagerly joined the new alliance. Even some of the core Federation worlds chose partnership over isolation. The rigid hierarchies that had maintained order for millions of years gave way to voluntary networks of cooperation. It wasn't perfect. Some conflicts arose between species with incompatible values. Some systems chose isolation rather than integration. But, for the first time in galactic history, these were choices made by free beings rather than decisions imposed by superior powers. The surrender of humanity had indeed changed the galaxy forever. Not because humans had accepted their place as primitives, but because they had proven that primitives could teach even the most advanced civilizations the value of freedom, cooperation, and mutual respect. In the end, the greatest victory was won not through conquest, but through the radical idea that every sapient being deserved the right to choose their own destiny among the stars.